So, Eminem has finally released his new record, and potentially his final one, The Death of Slim Shady. Eminem is, without a doubt, one of the most popular rappers and one of the most influential rappers in the genre, really. I mean, you could hate on Eminem all you want, but this guy manages to pull on some of the craziest number I've seen a hip hop artist pull. Uh, from like as album to album, there's guaranteed a couple of songs that are going to be hit in the Billboard just by his presence alone, even without doing probably that much marketing in general. And that was like kind of proved with this record because Houdini, which is the first and lead single of this record, I just checked on Spotify, almost has 300 million plays. And that song came out, what, like a little over a month ago, which is an insane amount of streams to get in over a month, really. But yeah, besides that, Eminem, as many know, he has dropped some of the most important records of all time. The Eminem Show and Marshall Mathers LP being basically two of the most essential records in the hip hop genre. It really cultivated the sort of like, I don't want to say cultivate, but it helped kind of cultivate and pioneer this kind of like speaking your mind political rap era that Eminem would later dive into his career. And it was just Eminem at the time was one of the most outspoken artists out there. I mean, not even just a rapper, just a musician in general. He would just speak what's on his mind. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. He would just say what he's thinking. The general public, but had like mixed reception with what he said. Obviously, a lot of people were split. A lot of people kind of agree with him. A lot of people praised him for just being honest and candid and not sugarcoating his ideas or philosophy in general, which made Eminem stand out from the crowd. At the same time, this kind of gave Eminem this sort of like negative perception, again with his later works, especially how he dealt with, I guess, the disaster that was Revival back in 2017, kind of like, I guess, hating on anyone who would even remotely diss Revival or call it trash, especially after the whole Tyler Creator controversy he had with him, because Tyler said what everybody else was thinking, which was the production wasn't great and the album kind of sounds very disastrous. But yeah, it's just that Eminem has been very divisive in general, but he's been just like, I guess, kind of like more divisive towards the 2010s, especially in this era. He's been a bit quote unquote quieter during the 2020s, but in 2010s there's a whole fiasco, especially in the late 2010s. But yeah, during that Revival kamikaze era, it was like Eminem was like mad at everyone just because they were voicing their like honest opinion. It was like he was attacking any single like critic, blogger, or just anyone who just didn't agree with what he said on the records, or just said, hey, I just don't like this album, this doesn't sound great at all, it just sounds messy, which is again what the majority were saying, even the fans were saying. I kind of found Kamikaze to be an okay album. I didn't find it to be great, amazing, or terrible. It was just passable. It was, I guess, the best thing we've got, and maybe some Martian Mathers LP too. But then after that, Music to Be Murdered By came out, which I did review in this channel 4 years ago, and I just thought it to be kind of mediocre. It's not terrible, but it just like was so half-assed in just how it was, and it was a long, kind of a boring album, and it took itself way too seriously, and it had just like a loss at focus, and also had some incredibly drab production. Like it was like very dry at times, like genuinely, and it had obviously the pop rap tracks that Eminem did most of his 2010s era, and it was just blatantly there, which is kind of obnoxious. But yeah, he also dropped the deluxe edition, the side B for Music to Be Murdered By, which I guess some people liked it, some people didn't. I barely remember side B. But now, just skipping to like now with Death of Slim Shady, this new record that Eminem dropped. And these two singles, again, what I said, Houdini, kind of like just blowing up in terms of popularity, which I thought to be okay. It was a nice kind of like tribute of him saying, hey, and it was like him in that song kind of interpolating the guess who's back, guess who's back, guess who's back, da, 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 the iconic song in the Eminem Show. I'm sorry if I'm sorry if I'm just like not saying like the song correct. I was gonna say Without Me. It is Without Me. I'm so sorry. I was thinking of To Like Collapse. My bad. But yeah, he was like interpolating that melody, of course, and he was kind of referencing some old school stuff of his own projects, Marshall Mathers LP and Eminem Show kind of era, which I thought was nice. It was cool. It was obviously made to appeal to the fans, since again this is supposed to be the finale of a Slim Shady persona, which again it's totally fine by me. But the thing is that like I think this song in general is like a song that it's like you can appreciate for what it's trying to do, but then not just like listen to it in your own spare time. It was like I listened to the song a couple of times and I just never just went back to it, if I'm being honest. He also dropped another song with Big Sean and Babytron, which was Tobey. I did not like that one line when he says, "Tobey Maguire was bit by a spider, but me, I was bit by a goat." Like, I know that Babytron starts off the song with that, and it is a very Babytron line because he says some absolutely crazy and funny things. But it's just that when you later hear that they literally mean it throughout the song, and it's like this is like the hardest line ever, and it becomes part of the hook. I just personally thought it was a bit corny, kind of unfunny for me. But obviously, it's not like it ruins the entire song. If anything, I found it to be the better single and one of the better tracks of this album that it has to offer. I thought Big Sean delivered a pretty solid performance. Babytron delivering his casual. It was actually I thought he was like more locked in this song, if anything, than most of the features that I've heard from him. And Eminem felt confident in this track. The beat was actually great. I thought the beat was gonna be like a super generic kind of like I want to say beer belly dad type beat that you would hear like in 2012, but it actually was actually a much better beat than that. So credits to who produced the song. You did not let me down. But actually getting into the album, to Death of Slim Shady, the intro track I thought was a banger. Genuinely, like the way he rapped and flowed throughout this song was impressive. There was a lot of energy put together. And I really did love the segment where he's kind of clowning on music nerds and critics that just, I guess, over critique an album. He did mention the like Kendrick, the whole critique about Mr. Morale not having bangers, it's too serious or whatnot. I thought it was a nice jab at it, and him saying that you nerds would probably trash on 36 Chambers. It was honestly a great jab at those people, because I mean, first of all, if you're critiquing 36 Chambers, I don't know what to tell you. Like, why are you even talking in hip hop community? 36 Chambers is a perfect masterpiece. Let's begin with that. But second of all, I like it because it's. I mean, Eminem has always been like anti-critic in a way. He's like, I don't care about what critic says, but then cares about what critic says. But I think at this song and this line, it's just like kind of nice, funny jabs that are actually pretty true. I mean, there's too many music nerds in the scene and hip hop nerds that think they know better than the hip hop artists, or just have this strange philosophy that is just so like reluctant, and it's like this. Sometimes it's overbearing. This is what I'm trying to get. It's completely overbearing. The second track, Habits, featuring White Gold, is I have like a love-hate relationship. I don't really love this song, but I kind of like it. But at the same time, there's so many things to hate about it. It's supposed to be sort of like Slim. It's supposed to be like Eminem, kind of like, I guess in this case, like possessed by his alter ego Slim Shady. And he's saying a bunch of crazy, like, ludicrous things, like what Caitlyn Jenner, a bunch of lines that are like kind of transphobic, and this and that, and this and that. I think it's annoying. It really is annoying. And here's the thing: I wouldn't care about this track that much if it wasn't 95% of what this album is basically is in the end. Like, I'm sorry to spoil this, but the Death of Slim Shady most of the time is just him trying to be edgy, and basically just placing the blame on his alter ego Slim Shady, and just kind of running it by like, oh, well, Slim Shady says it isn't me, guys, it's what he would say. And most of this album, I'm trying to prohibit him from saying this and ruining my reputation and career, which he's trying to make it sound like a satire, but it just ends up being like cringy and just very annoying. Like, seriously, I would get like a track or two where he does this, like Guilty Conscious. With Guilty Conscious 2, basically the whole track is basically about him fighting his alter ego back and forth, and his alter ego saying, well, I made you, and the new guy, his more mature version, saying, well, but you're killing me, and this and that. I get it, he's done tracks like those in the past, and I honestly think those are one of his more interesting and innovative songs that he has in his discography. Again, he's done it in the Eminem show, and he's done it in Marshall Mathers LP with the whole like kind of like storytelling, I guess, conceptual songs that are, I guess, more stronger. But the thing is that when you this album, I guess, falls more under the Slim Shady persona when it sort of runs by the concept, and sometimes it's not even like specifying it's a Slim Shady persona. And it just, again, I think it feels a bit cringy and off-putting. I mean, can probably just put a couple of lines on the screen, which I think are from Antichrist and Lucifer. I might get the songs wrong, but I remember those two songs being some of the worst. And Evil is also a pretty bad song. Like, genuinely, like, why would you say this? And I think with Antichrist, it has like an outro with Bizarre. Bizarre is known for saying some absolutely ludicrous stuff that I wish I could never hear again in my life. But I think like here in Big 2024, the weird Megan Thee Stallion, I think it was a Lotto scissoring fantasy, or I'm sorry, Nicki Minaj fantasy that, look, man, I just don't want to hear. And maybe it could have gotten a chuckle back in like 2000, but the more you listen to it, I mean, generally, like just still, like, fast forwarding now, it's still just like a cringy bar. And I think Eminem did say some weird stuff about Megan Thee Stallion and Houdini, about making a joke about Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion situation, about the leg, about the foot. Which, look, man, why? I get that he's notorious for making some outlandish and very out of pocket jokes, because I think in one of these tracks he does the joke about Kid Cudi's car being blown up and him almost dying, which, why? And then he does the Columbine, he's in the trenches at the Columbine shooters. Like, why, bro? Like, seriously, why? It reminds me of like Nicki Minaj when she did the weird Columbine bar. I think it was Columbine. It's one of those weird like shooter bars, which it never ends being well. It's never a bar. It's never like a hard bar. I think it's just generally a disgusting bar and a tasteless bar, which, again, I get that this album tries to make the point of him battling his alter ego, his persona, I guess being self-aware that it is a toxic persona that he has created throughout the years, and he's trying to be more mature and overcome it and stuff like that. But he's trying to write it off as his like bon voyage in his album, as like, I'm gonna say what is in my mind again, but it comes off as cringy instead of being like actually smart. Like, there is like a couple of songs in here where he just says, oh, there's so many pronouns in here, I don't know what to label this, and cis man want pronouns and this and that, and it's just too complicated. And then he says like Caitlyn Jenner like 8 times throughout this album. Like, it is seriously unfunny. Like, the amount of stuff that are in this album are just simply unfunny. I just don't find it to be funny, or there's just even humor in this album that I think is, again, remotely just funny in general. Aside of that, I gotta get credit. The production in here is actually great. And Music to Be Murdered By, there are so many songs that are just drab and dull and repetitive and just slow in terms of its like progression and production, which I was like, Eminem is like one of the wealthiest rappers and most popular rappers out there. How does he not afford better production? And the Dre beats weren't even that good. It was like, he's been like in a big decline lately. Thankfully, in this album though, it seems that Dre actually put his A game. And he really just stepped up with the production. He made some pretty great beats throughout this record. Just kind of switched it up. It feels much more like mixed, well put together, very boom bappy. And I think, again, Eminem flowed his ass off in most of this album. There was like 1 or 2 songs where it had that weird like choppy flow, I think in Temporary featuring Skylar Grey, which I didn't mind that much because it's not really like a long song, or it's not really about its rapping. It's about its messaging of him kind of dedicating a song to Haley and his kids in the case if he were to die or something, kind of like a "if I die, this is for you" type song. And Skylar Grey actually surprisingly delivering a pretty great hook. I have a problem with Skylar Grey features in general. She has been like over like 10 Eminem songs, and in most of those songs, and all those songs really, except for this one, I've just despised her performance. I'm sorry, but it's just not for me. I think the lyrics come off as corny, as cringy, and the singing is like annoying. But this time she actually doesn't sound that bad in this one. She sounds pretty nice and okay, so I'll give her that. But yeah, kind of returning to this album, production is a step up for sure. And I gotta admit, the features in here aren't necessarily that terrible. JID was unexpected in the track Fuel. I think JID just kind of out-rap Eminem, if I'm being honest. Like, the way he starts off this song is like how JID would start off the song, the intro song, The Forever Story, Radar. It's like almost like a machine gun going off basically in that flow. The bars are great. Again, his flow is always great. I love that he did the pitch down thing that he does in his voice, especially what he did in The Forever Story. But again, it was like the voice control was honestly amazing. You could tell that he was hyped to be featured on an Eminem album. Despite me like not liking the commentary this album offers, I can't lie that Eminem can put out a great performance. Because again, in the same track, Fuel, I think he has a pretty great performance in verse in general. Like he really even like I think he felt that JID kind of like threatened him a bit with his performance, and he tries to like kind of out rap him, which he doesn't do it. But it seems that he wants to put his A game on the song. He feels challenged to a certain degree. And the thing that I was kind of expecting in this album was like much more like features with rappers. I don't mind the more like poppier songs or more ballad songs or just having singers on the album. But I was expecting like West Side Boogie, which is on his label. I was expecting like I don't know, like maybe like other like rappers or something. I was expecting Kendrick to be on this album, if I'm being honest. I know it's a bit of like an unrealistic expectation, but if you're telling me this will be like the final album, your sort of retirement album from your most iconic character, in which you basically use in Marshall Mathers LP2, I would expect Kendrick to at least make an appearance or some other great notable rapper as well. I mean, I'm surprised like Royce didn't even wasn't even like mentioned here, wasn't like just appeared here. I was kind of surprised. But anyway, aside of that, overall, I think the features were just solid. They weren't like amazing, except for JID's part. But overall, they were just fine. Since I said that most of this album was basically like Slim Shady taking over Eminem's body and doing these crazy, ludicrous things. Because in the skits, it's revealed that he does so many crazy things that Eminem is basically canceled. A bunch of Gen Zers are basically just like after him. They want to cancel him. The LGBTQ community is furious with him. A bunch of people just hate him, his guts, and just want him to die. Which in the track "Brand New Dance," it's like why? Because like he just basically like picks on Christopher Reeves, which is the notorious actor for Superman, the original Superman, which is paraplegic. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but he basically just like makes fun of him, I guess, for being paraplegic. And then makes fun of midgets, which, look, I get that's been like a common thing throughout his entire career. For some reason, was to make fun of midgets. But just like why? I mean, I get it's supposed to be his alter ego, but it's again, it comes out as very unfunny and annoying, the entire track. And he's trying to give like dance instructions or make it like a dancier song in this song. Like he tries to make this song like dancey type, like the dance type. But there's nothing to dance to. I generally like, just wanted to shut this song off and just listen to something else that I can actually make me dance in a way. I was saying with the Gen Z thing, like what is I don't get like the whole statement of like Gen Z wants to cancel Eminem. It reminds me of that one cringy lady who made that TikTok, which she spit a freestyle over people who were mad at Eminem for saying something. I don't remember what it was. And it's notoriously known as being one of the worst freestyles of all time. And it's like just a cringe. Whenever someone mentions Eminem, it's like the first thing you probably see on Twitter or on YouTube or on TikTok or whatever. It's reference to Oblivion. But it's like, I generally don't understand. Like the whole thing of like Eminem, because like, again, as I was saying, he's using the Slim Shady persona as a way to like hide behind it and just say, well, pronouns this, pronouns that. Gen Z is trying to cancel me. What's wrong with them? I wish you could go back to 2003 and this and that and this and that. Like, bro, enough is enough. Even if he's playing a character and it's supposed to be satire, it's basically most of the album. Most of this album is basically him just ranting on stuff that nobody cares except for himself. That's what it just sounds like. And it's genuinely just like, again, cringy and just so unfunny. It really is. However, there was a pretty good jab. I think it was on the track Lucifer, which I did say was one of the worst songs. I don't know if it was Lucifer. One of those. I'm confused with some of the songs, but I remember those songs just being my least favorite, 100%. But there was a line where he goes after Candace Owens, I think, and I think that part was so great. Him like kind of schooling Candace Owens, I think speaking up because I think Candace Owens made some comments regarding Eminem, saying that she's like she forgot that she was black and she's posing as a mega white lady, and just I guess like basically like hiding behind like a KKK type of member, which is kind of true. Like Candace Owens is a legitimately crazy person who cosplays as a white lady, as a white like Republican commentator, which. Look, it's a whole other discussion, but I thought that was like one of the greatest jabs that Eminem has done in a while. But yeah, I don't want to make this like an entire like just yap session of like, oh, this album is bad because of this or that or that. It's I'm repeating myself a bunch of times because there's like really some. It's really hard to like not speak of what's obvious, what's in front of you, which is again is like 95% of this album. But I think how this album wraps up is kind of cool in a way. It has a feature from Jelly Roll. I think Jelly Roll has a pretty good voice, and he really sings his ass off on this song. You can tell he's trying to like I guess play the part well, and to sort of wrap it up with a bunch of glory in a way. Of course, it's Eminem kind of being more abstract about his drug addiction, how it basically, I guess, made him more of an absent father in his daughter's life, and kind of him trying to apologize, trying to make amends, trying to basically be the father that he tried to be but failed to be in a way. Which obviously he's going into more detail with that in Recovery, in Relapse, and a bunch of those projects that delve more into his mental health and to his drug addiction, of course. But I think in kind of like, I guess, wrapping up the Slim Shady persona, it's kind of a cool way to end it off. It's pretty abstract. It's pretty mature in a way. Sure, some people who don't like Pop Eminem might not like the song. I'm not even a huge Pop Eminem fan. I was going to say fun. I'm not a huge Pop Eminem fan, but I got to admit, this song was pretty good for what it offers. It's pretty nice and sweet ending to this album, if anything. To sum this all up, the Death of Slim Shady is unfunny. It's pretty annoying. It's very in your face, like any Eminem album would be. And I feel that this whole concept that he tries to attach to him like fighting his alter ego, battling it out, trying to like I guess like be socially acceptable, but at the same time I guess realizing that he can't because it's in his genes. It's how he built his whole career off of being like calling people out and stuff. And again, his whole like contradiction, like back and forth of like, I respect trans people, but if I think it's this, I'm gonna think it's this, and I'm gonna say it. But then putting it behind the Slim Shady persona, I generally think it's cringe, because even if he is putting it in just like he's saying, oh, this is like the old me, I'm like fighting demons in here, he's still saying it just to say it for a shock factor reason. And there was this one part where he's like, oh, if South Park can say these slurs, why can't I say it? I mean, they say it and they don't get shit for it, but when I say it, I get shit for it. That's not how it works. South Park definitely got shit for a bunch of things they said. They have been criticized a bunch for what they said. But the beauty behind South Park is that they make fun of the characters who say that. When Cartman says any of the slurs, people literally call him out for it. And he's the butt of the joke most of the time. He literally is. So it's just so much contradiction that goes on in this album that ends up being a bunch of it becomes a yapping burger. It's a yapping burger. I don't think I'm saying it correctly, but it basically becomes a yap session where nothing is resolved. And I think maybe hardcore Eminem fans might really like this album, and if you do, good on you. That's cool. For me, no, I really don't enjoy this album that much. Really don't. There's a couple of songs that are cool. The one with J.I.G. is 100% the best song of the entire record. If you're asking for a score, I generally don't even know what the score will be. I just don't like it. I just simply don't like it. Yeah, I just don't really like it. I mean, even if I were to listen to this album multiple times, I just probably would go to the same conclusion. I just don't like it. But anyway, let me know in the comments below if you did like this album, and if you didn't, let me know why. Subscribe so to miss an upload from me. Notification bell on so you stay posted. Like this video if you enjoyed the review, and yeah, see you guys next time. Peace out, everybody.